Every year, Holy Week takes us day by day through all the events that lead up to this very moment. Last Sunday, we marched with Jesus into Jerusalem with palm leaves and shouts of Hosanna. We celebrated the arrival of our Messiah and our Lord, while keeping always in view the coming of the cross. On Thursday night, we shared in Jesus' last meal with his friends, and with them we enacted his final command to love and serve one another, symbolized in the washing of feet. On Friday, we witnessed his arrest, saw the disciples scatter in fear, and we watched as they crucified our Lord. For us, these events are all well known. We walk through them again and again each year. We know the story well. We know the meaning in each step, and we know where things are headed, how they ultimately turn out. But as we reflect on these events each year, I think it's important that we keep in mind that this would not have been the case for the disciples. As far as they were concerned, this was not the plan. No matter how many times Jesus tried to tell them, you can see the utter confusion and fear that overwhelms them over the course of Holy Week. How could this happen? How could God let this happen? The Messiah isn't supposed to die. He's supposed to save us. He was supposed to lead us to a great victory over the powers of this world that oppress us. What good is a dead Messiah? What hope is there for us now with nothing but broken dreams and the shame of crucifixion hanging over us? You can almost hear the hushed and despairing conversation as they hide behind locked doors on Easter morning, asking themselves, what are we going to do now? What if the authorities are coming for us next? We know what happens next. But for them at the time, Holy Week would have represented their greatest fears coming to pass and the most profound disappointments weighing down on them. As far as they were concerned, God had failed them. Mary Magdalene's trip to go and tend to Jesus' body on Easter morning shows us just how disoriented with grief all of Jesus' followers must have been. Now, unlike the 12 disciples, Mary Magdalene stayed with Jesus through it all. She watched as they took Jesus down from the cross, dead. And she marked where they put his dead body. Then she gathers the necessary things and waits, as she must, till the time is right and the coast is clear. Then she goes to the tomb to anoint him. She was powerless to comfort him in his dying, but she can at least anoint his body after his death. It must have been her heart's desire to do so. How much she had her heart in that plan is shown by her reaction to its failure. When she comes to the tomb and now finds his body missing, she weeps. St. Augustine, interweaving all the gospel accounts of this scene into one, suggests that several angels must have come to her at this time, one after the other, trying to bring her weeping to an end. But they all fail to make any real impression on her. And this is noteworthy because there is no other story in the Bible in which we see angelic visits have so little impact on a person. In her heartbrokenness, after all that has come to pass, to not even be able to tend to the body of Jesus, Mary Magdalene brushes off even angels. But then we see Jesus himself finally appear to her. He appears to heartbroken Mary Magdalene before anyone else, before any of the disciples, before Peter or James or John. And it is only in that moment, when she is in the presence of the risen Christ, that her weeping ends. This is the story of Easter. Today is the day that her weeping ends. At that moment and in that place where all seemed lost, Jesus appeared in victory from the grave. This is the risen Christ, he who appears to the heartbroken, to the lost, to those so full of sorrow and grief that not even angels can bring them comfort. And he appears to us to wipe away the tears from our eyes when we think that all has been lost. And so we are reminded once again that this is how the story ends. This is what Holy Week brings. The gates of hell torn down, tombs emptied, and Jesus alive once again. And it brings us a promise. A promise that we, like Mary Magdalene, will know the joy of being in the presence of the risen Christ. For the tomb is empty, and victory has been won. By death, Christ has destroyed death and made all things new. And when all seems lost, when we weep, when we desire to hide with the disciples behind locked doors, remember that Christ is risen. The Lord is risen indeed. Alleluia.